Welcome to the CWS Google Plus World Food Day Hangout. Thank you for joining us today on World Food Day, a special day for CWS. CWS was born in 1946 in the aftermath of World War II. Our mission: feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, shelter the homeless. Our roots are in feeding the hunger, and today we'll look at the hunger-fighting work of CWS from a truly global perspective. First, we'll hear from Evelyn Norisier, the CWS Africa Coordinator of the Giving Hope Program. Welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
It's so great to have you. Thank you. The Giving Hope program empowers orphans and vulnerable children in Africa. Second, Matthew Stevens, CWS Ohio Field Director, will tell us about his work with the CWS Crop Hunger Walks in the United States. Welcome, Matt.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Hi, Matt.
Crop Hunger Walks support more than 2,200 local food pantries in the U.S. Now, as both Evelyn and Matthew talk, please type in any questions you may have for them in the window you see on the right-hand portion of your screen. We'll do our best to answer them during a question and answer period after they both speak. Also, feel free to tweet about what we're talking about today using the Hangout hashtag WFD2013, World Food Day 2013. All right, Evelyn, take it away.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's a great pleasure. Hi, Matt. I hope you're doing fine as well. I would like to share, first of all, is to congratulate all of us for the work that we've been doing as Church World Service around the world as far as food and nutrition security is concerned. And this particular day, as you've introduced me, I'll be able to speak about our program called Giving Hope Program that basically works with the youth caregivers. These are caregivers below 25 years of age who have been left vulnerable by virtue of living with parents who are HIV and AIDS, or they might have lost both parents or a single parent to this disease, or they are vulnerable by various situations. Some of them, for example, could also be living in slums and engaged in dangerous vices and so forth, but also other orphans who are below 12 years and therefore living in difficult environment in Africa. So in this particular category of members of our community, this particular program attempts to address access to basic needs, and food and nutritional security is one of the elements that this program attempts to address. So in this particular program, which started way down in 2004 in Rwanda after the genocide, the attempt was to be able to restore hope, because the family members, as the aftermath of the genocide and then the HIV and AIDS, which struck basically the East Africa country, left many orphans and vulnerable youths with no parents, no people take care of them. And in that case, the Church World Service has made tremendous effort to reach over 40,000 youth caregivers and orphans and vulnerable children in attempts to restore their social fabrics and be able also to provide basic opportunities to be able to access food, making it available as also defined by WHO in terms of availability, access, and also looking at opportunity to be able to increase production. So in this case, this particular program has been able to provide training. It has also been able to provide opportunity for nutrition, security in terms of establishing kitchen garden. It has also been able to accompany the youths and the children to be able to grow food, organic foods, through various trainings and accompaniment in terms of field activities, where the youths in Kenya, in Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Ethiopia have been able to participate, and Uganda to participate in the various activities of the program. So as we speak about food, or this particular celebration of the World Food Day, we take really pride in terms of meeting youths and children, orphans and vulnerable children with smiles on their faces because they have been able to afford food. Looking at various attempts also, we have been able to mainstream aspects of protection that looks at elements of land rights, and land rights in the sense that looking at land as a productive resource where youths are able to grow their food and they are able to provide for their household, because without land, at times it makes it very complex, and therefore they might have probably to move and migrate to urban areas in search of basic, food items, and at times also making it very complex for nutritional, balance. So in that case, the aspect of kitchen gardening as well as animal husbandry, both for small animals like poultry, as well as goats, and at times also livestock keeping, has enabled and complemented household food security, and we are glad that this is happening. Equally, we have been able to work with youth and children, particularly the youth caregivers. These are household heads, but are the ones in charge of household in terms of providing and fending for their siblings, to be able to provide them with income-generating activities. Remember that some of these youths are also living in urban informal areas or the slums, and therefore experience really difficulties in even a place where they can be able to grow food. So in that particular sense, in urban and as well as rural communities, income-generating activities become a strong component in terms of increasing their household income, to make it possible for them to be able to increase their purchasing power, which in turn has an implication or improves their ability in terms of procuring food and nutritional components or supplements that are able to make them food secure. So in this particular case, as I said, we've been able to reach over 40,000 youth caregivers in East Africa region, and we are glad that our initiatives have been able to put the smiles on these faces, and about 60% of these, about 24,000 households in East Africa, have been able to establish kitchen garden and have protein components that are mainstream in terms of livestock-related products. So maybe up to that point, I would like to stop there and pass it over to you back, Angela.
Wow, thank you so much, Everlyn. The numbers are so impressive, and hearing about the kitchen gardens and just the nutritional access these kids are getting is fabulous. And it sounds like you've got a really busy office over there too, because y'all are doing amazing things. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll start getting some questions in, because I know I have maybe 10,000 questions I want to ask you about the program. So like I said, if you have any questions about what Everlyn is talking about with the Giving Hope program and how it helps provide food security for children, or now as Matthew starts talking, please go ahead and type them in, and we'll have a great Q&A session after they're both done speaking. Okay, Matthew, could you tell us a little bit about crop hunger walks and how they empower people to fight hunger in the United States?
Yeah, sure. The Crop Hunger Walk is the oldest charity walk in the United States, and it's way over 40 years old. But I remember walking in my first walk in 1982 in Mount Vernon, Ohio, and the walk back then was 16 miles long. And I remember getting to the halfway point, and someone handed me an apple and a bottle of water, and I thought I was done with the walk, but I really wasn't. But how we organize the walks these days is we allow the local community to have a committee that helps to organize the walk, and they also get to choose which local allocation, which local pantries or local food fighting. Hunger fighting agencies that they want to support, which I think is actually a really great aspect, because 25% of the money they raised goes to support their local agencies. One that I'd like to highlight is the Largest Table here in Columbus, a walk that I happen to work with, and that's a really great opportunity on Wednesday afternoons at noon. They have a community meal that's open to anyone in the community who wants to come in for a free meal, and the people in the community not just eat there, but they also help serve, and everyone does their part to kind of to make sure that everyone has a hot meal when they leave, and I think that's pretty awesome. And I also one time a couple years ago, I got a phone call from a food pantry organizer in a very, very small town in Ohio, somewhat depressed town, very poor, and this lady told me that they were down to their last 2 cans of food when they got their Crop Hunger Walk check, and that if it wasn't for the Crop Hunger Walk check, they would not be able to have opened their doors later that week, and that check allowed them to purchase the food that they needed. So I think that fighting locally has a lot of benefits, because there are hungry people right here in our own neighborhoods, and I think that that's something that we need to be talking about with our children. We need to be talking about that with the members of our places of worship, in our schools, and our workplace to really address those issues. So that's it, Ange.
Great, that's fabulous. Um, all right, well, I'm not seeing any questions over here, so I'm assuming our experts are such amazing experts in their fields that they've explained every possible way about how our work is fighting hunger this World Food Day. I know I have a question or two, though, if that's okay, because we've got a little bit more time to use up here. And why not, right? Because I've got some amazing minds with us today. Evelyn, could you tell us a little bit more about the kitchen gardening? That really kind of jumped out to me. You know, what does that look like for these kids, and what type of vegetables are they growing, and just things like that?
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe in relation to your question, Angela, let me give probably also a background that maybe helps people who are not necessarily from within the Africa region to be able to understand the context here. That over years, about since 1970s to recently, maybe 2010, 2012, statistics indicate that Africa is still lagging behind in terms of food security. In terms of other regions, they have made significant progress compared to Africa, and this could be attributed to a number of factors. And some of these factors range from civil war, ranges from maybe changes in climatic conditions, which has, in terms of left, very communities in a very devastating situation, both in terms of pastoralist communities, both in terms of, farming agricultural communities, in terms of, extreme weather conditions, floods, and many other, challenges that have rocked the continent. And in that particular situation, the community, coping mechanism have somehow been affected negatively. And also with the diseases like HIV and AIDS made things, turn around in terms of the traditional coping mechanism vis-a-vis, attempts to bring in technology and modern opportunities probably in terms of enhancing productivities and increasing the quality of produce that we are able to, communities are able to produce in terms of food, food as a component or a basic component. So in this particular case, and looking at the difficult environment a climatic environment may be attributed to aspects of climate change. We are left with limited option, particularly where communities have relied on rain-fed agriculture to use, more farming methods that are not necessarily water-intensive, and therefore the aspects of kitchen garden is pegged on the opportunity that households with the water that they are able to use, for example, in kitchens, they're cooking and washing, such water can still be used to produce vegetables. So in dry areas and particularly in rural areas, the kitchen gardens have done very well in terms of presenting opportunities for the youth caregivers and the children when they're coming out of school or when they're at home or out of their business, they'll be able to pick vegetables from this garden. And this garden mainly, we have been able to accompany the youth in terms of giving them seeds that are also drought resistant, but also giving them training on how do you plant, how do you make sure that you tender the vegetables, using of organic pesticide for pest control than using the chemical or non-organic kind of pesticide. So the garden, the types of vegetables include kales. These are highly known, the kales as one of the vegetables, but also we have local traditional local vegetables, mainly used here in Africa. For example, the night black shade and so forth. And these have also do very well, and they're highly nutritious. And remember that some of these orphans and vulnerable children we are talking about, some of them are also living with HIV and AIDS. And that makes it even very complex in situations where they have to use fertilizers, inorganic fertilizers as well as pesticide, which can also pose a health risk. So it's more than just accessing food. It is more than just being available. It's also about the quality. It's also about the training on how exactly they can be able to use the local foods and be able to know how to prepare them in a manner that puts the nutrition together to be able to have a healthy life. And that's exactly what we are doing. So in terms of aspects of technology, sorry, probably have taken much time. On the technology also, we are trying to use what we are calling the greenhouse method. And the greenhouse approach is where we use plastic paper, which is able to control the level of moisture, but also very good in terms of managing pest, but enhances high level of productivity, particularly for vegetable production. And you can do this in a small area, and you can be able to produce a lot. So these are some of the technologies we are trying to inject into these communities, particularly through the youths and the work of children who are also happy to keep poultry and rabbits and so forth, good for nutritional, particularly the protein component. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. That was amazingly comprehensive. One topic or one term that you've been using, I've heard, is the term food insecurity or food security. And for somebody who isn't really well versed in hunger terminology, hunger fighting terminology, what exactly does that mean? Like, what is food security and food insecurity, and how does that relate to hunger?
Thank you so much. This I would probably rely heavily on the definition by the WHO, World Health Organization, that defined food security as a situation or a condition where a person is able to, be able to access food that is adequate enough and is in good supply, and also in terms of quality, to be able to have a healthy living and be able to undertake their responsibility. So in my own words, maybe not necessarily to quote what is on the paper, those are some of the aspects that are looked at in terms of availability, in terms of accessibility of the food, in terms of both not only the quantity but also the nutritional parts of that particular food, as well as the adequacy, to be able to sustain foods. And you find, for example, in Africa, most of the households or the youth, and unfortunately, even by a report by World Bank recently released in the course of this month, indicate in the world it's 400 million, people living with under food insecure. The people who are in food highly food insecure are children. Unfortunately, this category probably has been left behind, and most significantly left out in terms of statistics. But children also have a greater, and youth have a greater role to play in terms of food security, and also not only food, but also the nutritional part of it.
Thank you. We're starting to get questions in now too. This is really exciting. Evelyn, we have a question from Lisa and from Kathy both. Can you think of a particularly amazing or inspiring story of a youth that you've worked with this year and impacted during the Giving Hope program?
Yes, I'll speak about a youth called Felix Muravya from Rwanda. This is a youth who lost the parents when he was also very young. He's a male youth participant from Rwanda, and this young man lost his parents and he was not able to complete his education. He lives with his three siblings in Rwanda, and in the year 2010 he was recruited in the program, and he was, apart from just the food part of it that we provide as a component under the Giving Hope program, which uses the youth empowerment approach, where we not only cater for food but look at wholesomely aspects of empowerment, both in terms of them be able to, first of all, to accept their situation and be able to work within a safe space that they are able to talk about their problems. They are able, first of all, even to meet with other youth through what we are calling working groups. And he's been an active member of that working group. We have been able to offer him trainings on income generating activity. He has also received a loan through his group, through a microfinance arrangement by the youths themselves, and has been able to initiate a kiosk, a point where he's able to buy and sell items to his community. And as we are speaking, he's taken the three siblings back to school. He's also done the kitchen garden and is able to pick the vegetables. When the children come, the siblings, they're able to pick vegetables, and is able to concentrate in his business. For us, that's what we call impact. And I think that gives us the smile. When you walk in that particular household, it's totally different from what it was there. This boy has a bigger vision of doing a house for himself and for his siblings, and even marry and become a responsible citizen in the near future. So that is the impact I can talk about, and a story that is very inspiring.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Lisa and Kathy, for that fabulous question. We have another question now for Matt. so that he doesn't feel lonely over there. Mary Catherine would like to know, what are some of the other areas and programs and countries where Crop Hunger Walk funds are helping to end hunger?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah. Where are some of the areas, different types of programs, countries where Crop Hunger Walks are working to help end hunger? We're hearing a lot about the Giving Hope program because Evelyn is just sharing so much amazing information. But, you know, if people are participating in their local Crop Hunger Walk, where does some of that money go? What does it do? What does it make happen?
Well, Ange, you're familiar because we traveled together to Central America, to Honduras and Nicaragua, where we saw community gardens, we saw various forms of water projects that we helped to support. And one of my favorite stories is when this little girl named Maria and her mother was in one of our programs, and she had learned how to farm and to grow her own vegetables, and her mom takes us to the back of their house, and they show us all these vegetables that they have grown, and they had so many extra ones that they were able to take them to the market and sell to raise extra money to help support their family. And you know, that story I think really kind of stands out in my mind of places where we work. And I think that's a good example of how we are fighting hunger internationally with the Crop Hunger Walk money. And I like to talk about that with my committees and with my volunteers. I think it's important that they can kind of visualize their Crop Hunger Walk money in action. And so I like to share stories, and I take my iPad with me and show them pictures from our trip, and I think that gives kind of a nice personal touch.
Yeah, that brings back so many happy memories. That was such a fun trip.
It was. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome. So awesome. The things that Crop Hunger Walks make possible are amazing. Mary Catherine's got another really great follow-up question, too. And this is for either Matt, you, or Evelyn, whoever wants to take it. You know, today's World Food Day, and the theme for today is sustainable food systems. You know, how do we make nutrition sustainable? How do we make access to food security something that's sustainable into the future? What are some examples of how CWS is working smarter? You know, how are we being very strategic in how we are fighting hunger around the world?
Well, let me take it probably from the community perspective where we're working. There are a number of aspects that are very critical to how we can be able to make food a sustainable food system. And one of the issue that we're talking about is community empowerment, to become more resilient, particularly in the ever-changing climatic conditions. And this comes with information, this comes with training, and also improved agricultural systems that are more resilient to the harsh weather condition. Secondly, it could be an aspect of policies that are put in place, both by government, that we may not necessarily, as communities or people working at the grassroots level, have direct implication, though on probably a little bit on advocacy. Be able to challenge, government systems and structures that are put in place that are able to facilitate communities to adapt to this kind of change. And this looks at opportunities for complementary support and also motivational elements that are able to make communities, particularly the younger generation, to be able to invest more in agriculture, food production, than maybe just waiting for white-collar job. And I think that, in the recent years, about 5 years ago, I think there kind of seemed to be a shift in terms of, the interest for youths now to invest more in food production. And I think this sends a very positive signal in terms of the opportunities that is there in terms of enhancing food production in terms of quantity as well as quality. This also will make it more sustainable, because production is possible, but also improved farming systems and mechanisms or methods are likely to shape and maybe make it even much more better. The younger generation are the drivers of food security in the world. They are the future of this world, and I think particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, where a majority of this young population is left out, needs really to be, we need to rethink that and see how best do we need to improve that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we've got time for one last question, and this is from Lisa. How many communities are we working with, and how widespread is that work? And I can take that one myself. Currently, Church World Service is working in 32 countries around the globe, and we helped at least 127,000 people last year have sustainable access to food. So, you know, we've been talking about just the local micro level with the stories about Felix and the stories about Maria, and just how we're impacting them, but it's also a global work that we're involved with today and every day of the year, every day besides World Food Day. So I think that's a really good way to end this, just the fact that we're working in 32 countries and helping over 127,000 people have access to food. All right, everybody. Well, I promised half an hour, so I'm going to keep to that promise. And thank you so much for coming out today to hang out with us, literally, this World Food Day. Please keep in touch with CWS here on Google Plus by joining our circles. And also don't forget to check out our website at www.cwsglobal.org. And also throughout the day today, World Food Day isn't going to end at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So keep in touch with the conversation following the hashtag WFD2013, either on Twitter, Facebook, or Google+. There's tons of exciting things going on today besides this event, and I hope you take part. All right, until next time, thanks everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.